Here we are in my dream studio. I've been dreaming of this for quite a while, but here we are. Automats to be connected to Ethernet, to do new partners, you have to be obsessed. The light reaches the wall.
Biro, we're in a very special place right now. Where are we going?
Well, I just got the keys to my new kingdom, the Masterwork Studios. Before we get into all of the, hey, how the hell did we build a virtual production studio? I think it would be wise for me to introduce myself because probably you landed on this series and have no idea who I am. First of all, hi, I'm Biro. Nice to meet you. Thanks for checking out this video. There's a lot more to follow with how we managed to set up an entire virtual production, live streaming setup studio like this one. I come from a completely different world. I am a nerd at heart and I have an engineering background. I built a business that got quite successful and sold that business, a software business, at the end of 2022. By that point, I was already making video content and really in love with filmmaking and especially equipment. So I decided that I should change trajectory and get into film production company. So that's how I started Masterwork Films. Masterwork Films is primarily a film production company. We're focused on the narrative side of filmmaking. We do commercial projects as well as passion and indie stuff, but they all have a core component, which is a strong story. And we want to help as many brands, as many filmmakers, as many individuals tell better stories. So we put together a really good team around that. It stems from my own background. I built a business and successfully exited. The way I built that business and the reason why I succeeded was because it had a strong brand presence in the world, the market that I was in. There's no better way to build brand presence than through stories that relate to your audience, to your peers, to your network. And because of that experience and expertise, I decided to merge these two worlds of, how do you bring a brand to life and start building better relationships with your audience with the filmmaking world. Being in the film production world, there were a couple of, let's call them cold showers that I had around the industry and also around myself as an individual, as a professional. Being on set, building sets, going on locations that are type of sets and locations that you need to be in can be extremely costly and also demanding in terms of logistics. And I realized that a portion of customers that I'm working with don't want to be paying thousands or tens of thousands of pounds just for a set build or for getting to a super fancy location. Because we're doing a lot of talking head type of sit downs, interview, documentary style type of stuff, I really wanted a space to be able to do that. The other bit was, as you probably will notice from this series, I've accumulated way too much equipment. I decided that I should be doing something with that. Some of the equipment sits around not being used that much. Some is on set all the time. But I wanted to be able to, in a sense, make a buck out of some of this equipment and also help the local community because, there's not a lot of rental houses in the area. So I started a rental business, but I had a lot of the equipment in my storage unit, and it's a bit awkward bringing people over to your storage unit to hand them a bag with a couple of cameras or lenses or something like that. So that was another motivation to get a space of my own, to have a place where I can have people come over, rent and return equipment. pretty much this whole thing with the studio just went down a crazy, crazy rabbit hole. And don't get me wrong, I'm actually enjoying this rabbit hole that I'm in, but it also doesn't surprise me that I got into where I am today from this seed of an idea, because that's what I usually do. I get obsessive around a specific topic, deviating and amplifying things. And as a side note here, if there's anything that you take away from this series of how we built this virtual production studio, is you have to be obsessed. You have to be obsessed about it. You have to be an absolute nerd that loves this kind of stuff, this kind of, kind of like call it deep tech of filmmaking, because I think that's the only way to be able to build something and build something fast and not get super frustrated and call it quits in a sense, because it's not super simple. Right, hear me out. So you'll see how crazy this whole thing has become. The original plan when I hired this place, location where I store my equipment, check, we discussed that. One, have an area where I can have my desk, my office for editing, for doing stuff, working on the business, and then have a couple of spaces to shoot. So we're building a cove in here that's going to be on this corner, 3 meters by 3 meters. This wall until the corner is going to be there and there. So there's going to be 2 walls cove. And this wall will be a cove. This wall will be a cove, and then you have the middle as well that's like rounded and a cove. And then have an area where we can do podcasting and build some walls and things like that. That was the original vision when I got into this space. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy to find the space either. I think that's the other thing about this whole journey. Started looking for locations at the beginning of October when I took the decision that I wanted to do this, that I wanted to do the studio. This place was the best location. It checked most of the checkboxes. Not all of the checkboxes, but most of the checkboxes. We're at the ground floor. We have really good access. You can park next door. Entry access is really easy. There's double doors. And by the way, I'm explaining a couple of these things, but make sure you check the studio tour. We'll link it in the description so you see exactly what the studio is. Maybe might be good to do that before you watch the rest of this. This checked a lot of the boxes, but it's not easy to find really good locations for a film studio in Brighton in the UK. Again, I wanted a versatile studio, and I wanted a white 3x3 corner site, and to be able to also use it as a green screen for virtual production stuff, like very, very small talking head virtual production bits. We're going to have potentially some sky panels from Aperture, we'll see what we get, that are RGB, which means that we can have them white or we can have them colored. That's something that we want as a style. We can have a color in the background and have the subject here. You can even make them green, and then you have a green screen. We're going to be playing with virtual production. So we're going to get some trackers. We're going to splash a green screen on the back, and we're going to do some cool stuff. We're going to play with virtual production and see if we can get something running where we can also promote this as a virtual production stage. I'll give you an example of my way of thinking and how this evolved. So I started looking on how to light a cyc green in order to be able to key it in post or live for virtual production stuff. And I quickly realized that it would be hella difficult to flood such a small space with green RGB type of lights and not get impossible amount of that green light flooding the talent as well. Then I started thinking maybe I should do it green. And I started doing more research. And as I was doing this research on YouTube and other platforms and so on, I started, especially on YouTube, I started being recommended more and more content from a variety of YouTubers and business owners that basically have green screen virtual production studios. And one of them was Socially You. If you don't know who they are, but you're interested in virtual production and green screen virtual production specifically, I really suggest checking out their channel, They have these amazing deep dives. And I started watching all of those deep dives, and I realized that there's a whole world of a technology out there that enables you to do really high-end green screen keying and compositing. That kind of started sparking light bulbs in my head. And at that point, I was thinking, well, it's going to be a small investment just to have a space. From that, I escalated to, okay, so I need to do a bigger investment in this. I'm going to focus strictly on green screen virtual production. The reason why is because I've done a bit of deep dive research, and I realized that there's nothing like what I was seeing with some of these studios like Socially You in the south of UK. Really good, decent sized green screen cove, virtual production server for keying, for compositing, and so on. And someone obsessive and a nerd like myself to put all of this together and offer this type of service in the south of UK. And that was like an aha moment. That's kind of like where everything kind of snowballed into what you see today. So as you can imagine, that was super exciting once I had that revelation of what the studio should be. Anyways, even at the beginning, before all of that, when I was picturing something else, I was quite excited to have my first studio. So it's been a roller coaster of, from one excitement to the other. We signed the space in October, and we actually had quite a bit of time before we started paying for the place to start building it out. I knew that I wanted to launch at the beginning of February, but I guess I'll keep it to this intro and check out the next episode where we chat about building, the decoration, everything in between to make this look more like a studio and not like you see in the pictures and videos, an office space. Right, so make sure that you subscribe if you want to check out the entire series of how we build this studio. There's 11 episodes, including this one. Next one should be live already. And probably before you do that, watch the studio tour so you get an idea of everything that we had to put into this place. So I'll see you in the next video.